Hi, I am Sam Garner, and in this recording, I'm going to talk to you about how to support friends, family, colleagues, and anyone who may be struggling with their mental health. And straight off, let me tell you, it is not complicated, but it does take practice, and you will see what I mean. Let's look at how we usually help people who are upset. We usually do one of three things. We either tell them to look at the positives in their life, or we tell them how much it could be worse, or we tell them exactly how to fix their problem. Some examples. 10 years ago, I had an accident where I fell off a horse at some speed and I broke some bones. I ended up in hospital just being able to move one arm. So I was needing an operation, I was in a lot of pain and etc. And people would come in and visit me and say, Sam, you're so lucky. Now, to be honest, I wasn't feeling lucky at that point. I felt that being lucky would have meant I stayed on the horse on the saddle. And I know what they were trying to do. It could have been worse, but it didn't make me feel better. In fact, to be honest, I swore at them and threatened them with violence. But we see it on the telly in emergency programs. People actually say, they were lucky in that car crash. I mean, what part of a car crash is lucky? Lucky is not being in a car crash. Now look, I know what people are trying to do to get them to look on the bright side, but it doesn't help the victim or the pain that is being felt. Another thing we do say is, but I'm really struggling with my son at the moment. He's being a nightmare at school. Yeah, but your daughter's great. I'm really struggling with my workload at the moment. Yeah, but you don't have as much as me to do. Or we tell people to focus on the positives. I'm really struggling mentally at the moment. I feel very depressed. What? You've got nothing to be depressed about at all. Look at all the good things in your life and be grateful. Think about your children. Guilt doesn't work. Or we will tell them what they're doing wrong. So, for example, I really don't like myself at the moment. Well, you need to lose weight and get down to the gym. That'll make you feel better, I know. Or, Mark and I had another argument last night. Yeah, ditch him. He's not worth it. You're better off without him. Do you recognise yourself or any of these conversations that have been said? The thing is that none of these actually make anyone feel better. In fact, it's worse. I'm really nervous about Tuesday. You've got nothing to worry about. It'll be fine. Okay, great, thanks. I feel much better. I won't worry now. As if. Now, we want to make people feel better, but in our quest to make someone feel better or fix their problem, we aren't acknowledging their pain. Yes, I know it could have been worse when I fell off the horse, but it still felt pretty bad. And yes, I know you maybe went through something similar and it worse happened to you, but I'm going through it right now and it feels pain. We need to have our pain acknowledged and heard, no matter how trivial it may seem. I mean, a paper cut can really hurt. But it's my pain, not yours. It's my perception, not yours. Don't dismiss me or don't dismiss my pain because you think it's not valid. People feel better when they are heard. Just having someone to say, mate, that sounds awful. I'm glad you told me. And that is the magic ingredient of supporting mental health. People think they have to be trained psychiatrists to help, but you help by listening and hearing, acknowledging and validating. Nobody fixes mental health anyway. We manage it. And a major part of that is listening and talking. So many scientific studies show that people feel better just being heard. Think about it. When you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, do you want to talk to someone who tells you that it's not that bad or that they've had it worse or tell you what you're doing wrong so you can fix it? No. You will go to someone who will listen and empathise with you. A problem shared is a problem halved. And people who talk about their feelings instead of bottling them up do better mentally and physically. And do you know what? It's actually not that easy a skill to do because we're conditioned to think we have to fix it. We have to say something. We have to cheer someone up. You will need to practice this, I promise you. Ask someone to tell you something that irritates them. Traffic jams, queuing in the shop, anything, the smallest thing that irritates them. Then listen and empathize. Don't fix. Don't try to point out good things. You will be thinking of things you want to say, but don't. Listen and empathize. Don't interrupt. And say something like, oh yeah, that sounds really annoying. How stressful for you. And it is hard, I'm telling you. Even now with years of practice, sometimes I jump in and say something trite, especially when I'm in a rush or feeling lower, like, oh, don't be so stupid. Sometimes it is tempting to say that you know exactly how they feel. Oh, I know exactly how you feel as it happened to me. And we mean it lovingly because we think it will help bond, but it doesn't. It takes the focus away from my pain, and then we might feel guilty because the other person had it worse. You know how annoying it is to talk to someone who's been there and done that with everything you say, just 10 times worse. Please let me just focus on my pain, not yours. The key to listening, and this is active listening we're talking about, is not to judge. In counselling and therapy, it's called having unconditional positive regard. It's the skill of accepting and supporting another person exactly as they are without evaluating them or judging them at all. Now, this isn't the same as unconditional love, and you don't actually have to like the other person, but you do have to be able to put aside your personal opinion and accept them completely as they are without judgment, that what they are saying is their truth and you believe them. You accept them as a person. And this isn't always easy. I've certainly worked with people that I'm not massively keen on, but generally I try to believe that everybody is doing the best they can. We've all had a different life experiences which has brought us to where we are now. And each person's experience and genetic makeup and ability to deal with pain is unique. I also find my mental well-being affects my ability not to judge. When I've been neglecting myself, I'm more tired and less resilient, and my capacity for unconditional positive regard is reduced. I mean, it'll be like, oh, I'm really not interested because I don't care. But I'm trying to be honest about this for myself. Obviously, I'm not going to say that to somebody, but I try to be honest and go, Sam, now's not a good time to be listening to somebody. You need to take time to refill your batteries. That is why it is so important that we look after our mental well-being as a priority. Now, there are other skills involved in active listening to support someone. Giving someone your full attention whilst listening to them. Not being on the phone, not being on the telly, not writing anything down, not filing your nails. That's important. And also, don't feel quick to jump in when there is a gap. Get comfortable with silence. Have pauses. People often use it for thinking, and if we interrupt, we may stop them saying something. Silence is so powerful. You can ask questions, but make sure they're open questions which don't give away any viewpoint. For example, is the fact your husband is horrible bothering you? An open question is more about how do you feel about your husband? I'm not transferring my opinion to you in the question. If somebody's talking to you and expressing distress, it is okay to say that you don't understand something that's been said and you can summarise it or ask them to repeat it. Just make sure the other person is doing most of the talking. I can't stress enough how important active listening is in the supporting of mental health. Being able to listen, hear and acknowledge are immensely powerful skills. Now remember, we never fix people. We aim to make their lives better, and the first step in doing this is listening, hearing and acknowledging. I promise you, just having one person who hears us and believes us makes a major difference for adults and children. Again, research shows that when people are in pain, an empathetic presence calms the body. And your body and mind is more regulated when you talk about your feelings. Now, once you've had an initial conversation, you can ask questions such as, what would you like me to do to help? Or you can signpost towards support services such as the Bluebird support program if it's a colleague. Or sometimes people will just feel better by listening and won't want anything more. It's taken me years to train my husband to just listen when I want to offload and not fix anything. No, don't speak, just listen. The process of talking through it helps me tremendously and helps me collect my thoughts. If there is a problem and they would like help sorting it, then use empowering language rather than actually telling them a solution, unless that's your job, obviously. But the idea is to help people find their own way. So ask questions such as, what are your options right now? What are the pros and cons of each option? Which one seems the best solution to you and how are you going to go about it? I feel the need to make a couple of important points here. Firstly, you can make a huge difference supporting the mental health of a friend or colleague, but you must remember you are not expected to be a mental health expert and your role is not to fix their problem. You can listen to them and guide them to further support, but their mental health is ultimately not your responsibility. We each have a responsibility to manage our own mental health, and it's up to us whether we accept advice and support or seek it. Also, your own mental well-being has to be the priority. If you find that supporting somebody in particular is affecting you negatively, you need to step back and talk to someone else. If someone reveals that they are considering suicide, then ask them to seek help immediately and do not keep that to yourself. Talk to a manager or someone close to the person. Ultimately, I have rung the police before when a friend talked about suicide and went missing. Fortunately, she was found and given support. The listening support may not be a one-off. You might want to arrange catch-ups where you ask how it's going. You don't have to pry and accept if they just tell you, yeah, it's fine. But we all need to be heard and receive continued support. Practice active listening. You will be surprised how positively people respond. Honestly, it is an amazing skill to have. Also, find someone who will actively listen to you. It's important for you to be heard as well. Thank you for listening.